Welcome back to Viewpoint. I'm Jim Zogby. My next guest is show host and political commentator Bill Press, former host of CNN's Crossfire and The Spin Room. He currently hosts a nationally syndicated Bill Press show and writes a column for Tribune Media Services, author of 5 books, including his latest, Toxic Talk, How the Radical Right Has Poisoned America's Airwaves. Thanks for joining us, Bill Press.
Jim, it's good to see you. Thank you.
I want to start, if we can, with what's going on in New York. The UN session is there. President Obama spoke yesterday and was sort of preceded by Rick Perry, governor of Texas, who is challenging him on the Republican side about the Middle East. I want to first play some excerpts from President Obama's speech.
Okay.
And I want to take a look at some of what Perry said, and I want to get your take on some of it. Let's go first to President Obama speaking yesterday at the UN.
1 year ago, I stood at this podium and I called for an independent Palestine. I believed then, and I believe now, that the Palestinian people deserve a state of their own. But what I also said is that a genuine peace can only be realized between the Israelis and the Palestinians themselves. 1 year later, despite extensive efforts by America and others, the parties have not bridged their differences. Now, I know that many are frustrated by the lack of progress. I assure you, so am I. But the question isn't the goal that we seek. The question is, how do we reach that goal? And I am convinced that there is no shortcut to the end of a conflict that has endured for decades. Peace is hard work. Ultimately, peace depends upon compromise, and that is and will be the path to a Palestinian state. Negotiations between the parties.
The speech. Washington Post headed the story with Obama says Abbas is using the wrong form. That was the New York Times, rather. But I was up there, and folks there thought he was using the wrong forum. It was they saw it as a campaign speech directed at an American audience, and silence, little applause, no ovations during the speech. One guy I spoke with, a minister who was there for the session, said he never remembers going up there and hearing a U.S. president speak and not getting applause. Talk to me a little about that, about how that plays out here domestically. Did it work for the president, what he's trying to do here? Didn't work in the Middle East, didn't work in the world, but did it work here?
You know, a couple of thoughts, and I'm just speaking for Bill Press, right? I mean, I'm watching this for a long time. You and I have known each other a long time. I've talked about this issue many, many times. I think the president made a big mistake. I think the United States made a big mistake. I think what the president's message was, we believe in a Palestinian state, just not now. And I think the Palestinians are rightly asking, if not now, when? They waited a long time. I think clearly the president did this for domestic political reasons because he could not alienate the Jewish vote in this country. I think Netanyahu has put him in a very bad spot. And what does he get for it? He gets headlines saying Obama's losing the Jewish vote. He gets Jewish leaders who welcome a Rick Perry and say, we'll go with Perry rather than Obama. And to those people, I just want to ask, to those people, seriously, and they're not obviously the entire Jewish community, but I want to ask them, name one thing in the last 3 years that President Obama has done that has undermined Israel. They could not do it. It's just that they're in bed with the right-wing Republicans, and they think that's going to help them. I think it's going to hurt them.
Let me put Rick Perry up, because he said some pretty outrageous things, I thought. I mean, for somebody, while your president, regardless of the party, is trying to deal with some controversial and complicated issues in the Middle East. Let's play Rick Perry at his press conference in case you guys didn't hear it. He did this event up in New York.
Simply put, we would not be here today at this very precipice of such a dangerous move if the Obama policy in the Middle East wasn't naive and arrogant, misguided, and dangerous. it must be said first that Israel is our oldest and strongest ally in the Middle East, a democratic ally in the Middle East, and it has been for more than 60 years. The Obama policy of moral equivalency, which gives equal standing to the grievances of Israelis and Palestinians, and including the orchestrators of terrorism, is a very dangerous insult. By proposing indirect talks rather than between Palestinian leaders and Israel, this administration encouraged the Palestinians to shun direct talks. Secondly, it was wrong for this administration to suggest the 1967 border should be the starting point for Israel-Palestinian negotiations. When you consider the suggestion of those borders was made on the eve of the Israel Prime Minister's visit, we see the American administration having a willingness to isolate a close ally and to do so in a manner that is both insulting and naive. Now, thirdly, by injecting the issue of the 1967 borders, in addition to a construction freeze in East Jerusalem and the Israeli settlements, the Obama administration put Israel in a position of weakness, taken away their flexibility to offer concessions as part of the negotiation process.
I don't know who wrote that for him, but frankly, that was a litany of just hardline, very Likud, even harder line than Likud in some instances.
Well, for one thing, I mean, Rick Perry makes George Bush look like a statesman, I have to say. And I think the idea that anybody would take Rick Perry seriously about any foreign policy issue is absurd. I mean, the guy's a clown. He really is. He doesn't know his ass from a hot rock when it comes to the Middle East or any other part of the world, number one. So I think, I mean, that's ludicrous. Number two, what he's saying is all just lies. I mean, Barack Obama, agree or disagree, has followed the same policy that Bill Clinton had, that George W. Bush had, and that you know, and he's pursuing, and it's always been direct talks. Isn't there to encourage indirect talks? It's direct talks, direct talks. So, but again, what we're seeing here is a diabolical move on the part of the far right.
Is there a crowd?
To corner
is there
the
a
Israeli
constituency
vote.
for that? Is there a constituency
Sure.
for that?
Sure, there's a constituency where he was speaking. There's a constituency in the right or farther to the right than Likud.
How about the religious right?
Element of the
and the radio talk show
yes,
hosts that
right,
you talk
right.
about.
Of the Jewish community, first of all, I said
Yeah.
extreme right there, right? New York 9, if you will, some of them. And the religious right, Tom DeLays of this world and the Glenn Becks of this world, who went over there and gave this big rally, right? Because they see, they want Armageddon. Right? They really want things to blow up in the Middle East because that will hasten the end days. And I'm not just saying this, that's what they say. Here's what gets me, right? What's so diabolical about this is under their religion and under their faith, in the end days, they're going to go to heaven and the Jews are going to go to hell. So why are the Jews even talking to these guys?
The president's in trouble on this stuff.
So I'm sorry?
The president's in trouble on this stuff, but he's in trouble on a whole bunch of fronts right now. And I want to, in particular, talk about his jobs bill.
Can I just say one final thing on this? That Joe Cirincione is a friend of ours, both of us respect, and Joe made a point on my show, which I thought I hadn't heard anybody else say it, is that in effect, President Abbas is doing the United States a favor by going to the Security Council and not to the General Assembly, because the Security Council process takes months. And so, in effect, he is buying us time and buying Obama time. And I think that's something to consider. It's not the end of the world, in other words.
Let me go to the president's job bill. This is a guy who wants to govern by compromise. Governed by becoming an effective mediator of controversial points, even within his own administration. In the process of doing that, he alienated environmentalists, alienated Hispanics. He's frustrated the African American community, folks who wanted health care, universal health care, got frustrated. And now the jobs bill is they're sort of bouncing back and being tough and coming forward with a line. My question is it too late? Is it going to make folks happy? Will people say, this is the president we voted for and the one we want? Or is he fighting a game a little too late?
First of all, I don't think it is too late. But I have to tell you, certainly the president for the first 3 years thought that he could make a deal. And it's sort of like, I want everybody to love me, and I can sit down with John Boehner, and we'll come up with a grand compromise. And John Boehner has stabbed him in the back, wouldn't even return his phone call at one point, time after time after time. All of us on the left have seen, this is a waste of time. This gang, there used to be a time in this town when you could get Republicans and Democrats together to work on problems. We know people like Bob Dole and people like Howard Baker, right? Or people like Tom Daschle or George Mitchell. That doesn't exist anymore. Boehner and Mitch McConnell have one agenda, which is to bring down this country in order to bring down Barack Obama. So I think, though, Jim, that he has finally realized that. And I don't think he's just play acting now. I think he really decides he's going to go for broke. He's going to go, jobs is the agenda, and he puts out there what he wants. He's going to fight for it, and I don't think he's going to back down. And I think the people will get behind him, especially when they look at the alternative.
The question that people are going to say, though, is he serious? Is he legislating or is he politicking? And this is the attack line from Republicans, but will there be those on the left who say the same thing?
No. You know what? There may be some. And to them, I say, look what happened in 2010. You took the same attitude. We're disappointed in Obama. We're not going to vote. We're going to stay home. And so what do you get? You get Scott Walker in Wisconsin, John Kasich in Ohio, and you get 63, extreme right-wing Tea Partiers in the United States Congress. You can't do that in 2012. I think what people see on the left now is that Obama is fighting for what we need and what he wants. It's like an FDR moment for him.
We're running out of time, but I wanted to talk about Ron Suskind's new book. Mm-hmm. Stirred up a lot of controversy, and it's raising a lot of interesting questions about the effectiveness of the administration and its ability to make consistent decisions. Suskind argues that instead of going with the Obama who ran, he actually appointed people who had contrarian points of view, and they kind of ran away with it. Ran away with financial reform, ran away with basically health care, and sort of moved on a track. Then at the end, he'd come in a little too late and try to salvage things. The book, some books like this fizzle, and some books like this actually become definers. Where do you think this one's going to go?
I think there's less there than meets the eye, to tell the truth. I mean, first of all, I think the worst appointments that President Obama made were in the economic sector. Larry Summers was a disaster. Everybody knew he was a superego. Everybody knew he was words that I cannot use on your program, and I don't know why he appointed him. Number two, I think it reflects that what you had was a rookie president facing the biggest financial crisis, economic crisis this country has had since the Great Depression. And yeah, I think they floundered a little bit, but you know what? He came out of it pretty well. I mean, the stimulus worked, saved us from the brink of disaster. And then you flash forward and you look at a Barack Obama who made the decision at great risk to go after Osama bin Laden in Pakistan and invade that compound. I think the guy's grown in the job. I think that's the story. And finally, look, I never worked in the White House. I worked in a governor's office in California. The idea that cabinet members are screaming at each other and fighting over issues and saying, no, we ought to do this, no, we ought to do that, that comes with the territory. So that's why I say I think there's less there than meets the eye.
The book's not going to end up being a sort of a noose around the neck that'll sort of bother these guys for a period of time.
No, I don't think so. I don't think
if the economy doesn't improve, what happens? Can he win even with 8+% unemployment?
I think it's going to be 8+% unemployment. I think if we have a double-dip recession, I think if the economy is really, really bad, Barack Obama's a one-term president. Yeah. If the economy is improving, if the Dow is holding on, if unemployment is maybe just inching up, I think he can paint we're on the right direction. It's taking a long time.
But people from the progressive side of politics like you are going to, in 2012, say, he disappointed me, but the other guy scares the heck out of me, and they're going to go, you think they'll come back?
Partly that, and let me tell you something else. I got a list. I keep a list of where Barack Obama's disappointed me. It's a long list. I got a list of the good things he's done. It's a lot longer.
Okay. Thanks for joining
That's
us,
right.
Bill Press.
All
We had
right.
some calls holding. We didn't even give the numbers up. I thank you for calling me. We're out of time. We were done in by traffic tonight, but thank you for joining us. If you want more information, you can follow us on Twitter at AAIUSA or log on to the website, AAIUSA. I want to thank you for watching and tell you we'll see you next week on Viewpoint. Articles of great import and videos of great import to the rest of us was significant. Did you expect when the Egyptian revolution started that this is what you're going to be doing?
No,
No?
none of us did. It was a small step for me.
And it was an amazing explosion in terms of the followers you have, and one of them. Thanks for joining us. That's all the time we've got right now. You can follow us at Twitter at AAI USA. I want to welcome you to the show tonight if you're a first-time viewer. If you're not and been with us for a while, thank you, and I'll see you next week on Viewpoint.